There's a strange kind of silence we carry now. Not the peaceful kind, but the one that comes from scrolling for hours and still feeling empty. You know the feeling. You turn off your screen, and for a split second, it's just you. And that stillness, it's louder than anything else. We live in a time where everything's available, instantly. Information, people, validation, distractions, and yet, the one thing that's slipping through our fingers is ourselves. Maybe you felt this too, that quiet confusion at the end of the day. Not sadness exactly, just that weird weight behind your ribs, like your soul is tired from pretending all day. Let's pause here. When was the last time you felt fully present in your own body? Not performing, not achieving, not curating yourself for someone else's attention, just being. It's strange how far we drift without noticing, not because we're weak or broken, but because this world rewards the disconnected version of us, the productive version, the polished version, the version that smiles on cue. Meanwhile, the real you, the one that gets anxious in quiet rooms, the one that forgets how to breathe when opening emails, the one that talks kindly to strangers but brutally to yourself, that you gets pushed aside, quietly, efficiently, like background noise in your own life. Maybe we've designed a world that's allergic to slowness, to softness, to self-awareness. Tim Ferriss once said, "Busy is a form of laziness, lazy thinking and indiscriminate action." But I wonder if busy is more than that. Maybe it's a shield. Maybe it's how we avoid the ache of being alone with our thoughts. Think about it. You wake up and reach for your phone, not because there's something urgent, but because the silence is unbearable. Not even 10 seconds of stillness. Before we distract ourselves back to sleep, let's slow this down a little. If modern life is a performance, who are you performing for? Do you even remember who you were before you had to be seen? We're more connected than ever. But how many people know your real fears, your honest dreams, the thoughts that wake you up at 3 a.m.? Maybe we've mastered being visible and forgotten how to be real. There's no blame here. This isn't a scolding, it's just an observation and a question. If your digital self disappeared tomorrow, would you still know who you are? Not the username, not the feed, not the output, just you, as you are, unfiltered, unseen. You're listening to Echo, the voice behind NTDN, a quiet voice in the noise, not here to lecture, just to wonder aloud, with you. There's something you've been carrying, not heavy exactly, just constant, a low hum beneath everything you do. You feel it when you close your laptop at night, when the notifications stop, when the world goes quiet for half a second, and you don't know what to do with it. Maybe you've been living like this for a while, functioning, showing up, answering messages, meeting deadlines, laughing on cue, but somewhere in the middle of it all, you stopped checking in with yourself. You stopped asking, "Am I still here?" And I don't mean alive, I mean here, present, aware, whole. There's a difference between being alive and being awake inside your own life. And I think a lot of us are confusing the two. No one really talks about how easy it is to drift away from yourself. Not all at once, just little by little. A moment of self-doubt you didn't speak up about. A weekend where you buried your anxiety in content. A morning where you forgot to feel your own breath before checking who needed you. It's not your fault. This world doesn't exactly reward stillness. We're in a time where attention is currency, and you're being asked to spend it constantly. Every scroll, every buzz, every carefully crafted identity. And somewhere along the way, you became more focused on being seen than being felt by yourself. I wonder, when was the last time you were alone and actually felt comfortable with it? No music, no screen, no external noise, just you, as you are. Nothing to prove, no role to play. That kind of silence, it's not empty. It's full. Full of everything you've avoided. Full of the questions you've been too tired to ask. Like, who am I when I stop performing? What do I feel when I stop numbing? What's left of me if I stop being useful? These aren't easy questions, but they matter, especially now, because modern life, in all its speed and noise, has given us everything except space to remember ourselves. You're not broken, you're not failing, you're not behind. You're just disoriented, unanchored, disconnected from the one person you can't replace, yourself. And maybe you don't even realize how far you've wandered until someone gently asks you, when did you last feel real? Let's stay with that. Not to fix, not to force, just to feel. Because in a world that profits from your distraction, your attention, especially toward yourself, is an act of quiet rebellion. I'm not here to wake you up with noise. I'm not here to give you 10 tips or 3 steps. I'm just here to sit with you in the stillness, in the questions, in the moments where you realize you miss yourself. And that maybe, just maybe, you're allowed to come back home, not all at once, but breath by breath, word by word, moment by moment. Let's leave that thought hanging for a moment. Sometimes it's subtle, soft, like walking into a room and forgetting why you came, like laughing at something and realizing you didn't actually find it funny. It creeps in quietly, like background noise that never turns off, until one day you notice you don't recognize the voice in your own head anymore. Let's talk about what it feels like. Not just the concept, but the experience. Disconnection feels like waking up tired, even after 8 hours of sleep, because your rest wasn't real. It was just your body collapsing after running all day, from nothing and everything at once. It feels like standing in the middle of your own life and wondering when it stopped feeling like yours. You go through the motions. You meet deadlines. You say, "I'm good," when someone asks. And maybe you even mean it. But something inside you is off. Not broken, just misplaced. Sometimes disconnection feels like brain fog. Like every decision takes too much energy. Like your mind is full of tabs you forgot to close. But none of them are loading. You keep reaching for your phone, not because you want anything, but because you forgot how not to. You can't sit in silence anymore. Not because you're restless, but because silence now feels like failure. Other times, disconnection shows up in your body. A tight jaw, a clenched stomach, shoulders that haven't fully relaxed in years. Your nervous system is always on, as if your body is bracing for something that never comes. That's the thing. You're not just disconnected emotionally. You're disconnected physically, from your breath, from your gut, from your instincts. And when you live like this long enough, you start to confuse numbness with peace. Numbness is quiet, yes, but it's not calm. It's what happens when your mind gets so tired of feeling that it just shuts down the system. Disconnection feels like not trusting your own choices, like asking 10 people for their opinion before you do anything, like second-guessing what you already knew. Because somewhere along the way, you stop believing that you know what's best for you. It's like having a voice inside you that whispers, something's missing, but you can't name what. So you search, in videos, in purchases, in other people. You keep chasing relief in things that only offer distraction. And here's the most painful part. Disconnection makes life feel numbly tolerable. Not bad enough to crash, but never good enough to feel fully alive. It's not despair, it's indifference. A dullness that coats everything in a film you can't quite wipe off. You forget what joy felt like before it had to be captured. You forget how to cry without apologizing. You forget how to sit with yourself without needing to justify it. And when this becomes your normal, you stop noticing the ache. You just call it adulthood. You just call it being busy. You just call it life. But it's not life. It's a performance running on autopilot with no one left in the driver's seat. And if this sounds familiar, that doesn't make you broken. It makes you honest. Because maybe what you're feeling is the weight of years lived externally without ever being given the space to turn inward and say, this isn't me. So let's sit with that discomfort. Let's not rush to fix it. Let's not reframe it. Let's not turn it into a productivity hack. Let's just feel it. Because sometimes the most human thing you can do is not distract yourself from the ache, but listen to it. Let it speak. Let it teach. Maybe that ache isn't asking you to panic. Maybe it's asking you to come back, to come home, to return, to the quiet parts of you that never left, even when you did. Let me tell you a story, not about someone else, not really. It's about you, or at least the version of you that showed up when you didn't feel safe being yourself. Let's call them the builder. The builder arrived early. You didn't even notice them at first. They weren't loud. They were helpful. They studied what made people like you. They learned the right words to say, the right way to laugh, when to shrink, when to shine. The builder was smart, but not curious, quick, but never rested, capable, but never real. Their job was simple: keep you accepted, keep you functional, keep you safe, and they did their job well. You survived the classrooms, the rejection, the silence at home, the noise at work, the fear of not being enough. And every time something hurt, the builder added another layer, another rule, another don't be too much or don't speak unless spoken to. They built a suit around you, invisible but heavy. It looked like confidence, but it was armor. It looked like discipline, but it was fear. It looked like success, but it was distance from who you really were. Over time, you forgot where you ended and the builder began. You wore their voice like your own. You echoed their habits. You kept going, even when you were exhausted, even when you hated the role you were playing. But here's the thing: no one tells you. Survival strategies age, they expire, and eventually, the suit that protected you starts to suffocate you. You start waking up and feeling numb. You start saying yes when your whole body screams no. You start achieving things that make other people proud and feeling nothing. Because the builder can keep you safe, but they can't make you whole. Let's pause here. Can you feel it? That tiny flicker inside you? The part that's tired of being useful all the time? That's the original you, not the one you created, the one you covered up, the one who felt deeply, who asked weird questions, who got quiet when the room got loud, who liked staring out of windows more than speaking, who wanted less than everyone else wanted for you. They never left. They just went quiet because the builder told them it wasn't safe to be seen. This isn't a blame story. The builder did their best. They were just a scared child trying to make sure you made it, but you're not there anymore. You don't have to keep performing a self that no longer reflects who you are. It's okay to thank the builder and then let them rest. And that's where the real work begins. Because without the builder, without the roles, without the mask, without the constant doing, who are you? What do you feel? What do you want? What would it mean to stop being impressive and start being true? Maybe that's the scariest part, because disconnection can feel safer than authenticity. You know the rules there. You know how to play the part, but there's no joy in pretending forever. No peace in being everything for everyone, except yourself. Maybe what you're feeling now, this ache, this weariness, this subtle grief, is your body mourning the version of you that never got to fully live. The soft one, the playful one, the version that didn't have a 5-year plan, but loved hearing the wind in the trees. They're still in there, waiting, not for a big transformation, not for a perfect morning routine, just for permission to come out, to speak, to breathe, to live. Let's be honest. Disconnection isn't random. It's not a personal failure. It's a system, a loop, a perfectly engineered rhythm that rewards you for being everywhere but inside yourself. Let's talk about where it begins, the infinite scroll. It starts with something simple, a screen. Your phone lights up, you tap, you swipe, you scroll, and suddenly, an hour's gone. You didn't mean to disappear. You didn't plan to ignore your body, but the algorithm is better at knowing what you'll reach for than you are. Experts like Tristan Harris from the Center for Humane Technology have said it clearly. We're not using technology, we're being used by it. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're up against billion-dollar machines trained on your dopamine. Every swipe is a hit. Every notification is a pulse. Every moment of stillness becomes a threat. So you fill it, not with meaning, with noise. And the more you scroll, the less you feel. Not because you don't want to, but because your brain can't hold both presence and overstimulation at the same time. Let's pause here. When was the last time you looked at your phone and actually felt better after? Exactly. The addiction to productivity. The world tells you to rest, but rewards you when you don't. You say you'll take a break after this project, this exam, this launch, this cleanup, but the list never ends, because the game isn't survival anymore. It's optimization. We've turned humans into to-do lists, and you're praised for burning out, as long as you keep producing. Dr. Gabor Mate calls this toxic productivity. He says many people are addicted to doing because they've never been safe just being. And maybe that's you. Maybe the reason you can't rest is because stillness feels like failure, like being seen without your armor, like being naked in front of yourself with no titles to hide behind. So you keep running, keep building, keep proving, but never arriving. Social performance and self-alienation. You don't just post photos anymore, you post versions of yourself. Curated, composed, palatable. There's nothing wrong with expression, but what happens when your identity depends on being perceived? You start editing the truth, smiling on your worst days, capturing sunsets instead of feeling them, turning grief into a caption with just enough space for engagement. Naval Ravikant said, "Escape competition through authenticity." But what if you've forgotten what authentic even looks like? You've played the role for so long, you've become the mask. And the most dangerous thing about pretending is that eventually you forget you're pretending. You think this version of you is real, the one who's always strong, always calm, always doing fine. But deep down, you miss the unfiltered you, the one who cries without hiding, the one who doesn't need an audience to feel worthy, the one who lives for quiet moments, not reactions, trauma that never got a language. Here's something no one wants to say out loud. Some of us disconnected from ourselves because we had to. When you grow up in chaos or shame or silence, being present isn't safe. So your mind leaves, your body tenses, your emotions freeze. You learn to function in pain, and the world applauds you for it. You learn to be funny when you were sad. You learn to overachieve so no one would notice your fear. You learn to stop crying so people would stop saying you're too sensitive. That wasn't weakness. That was intelligence. But now, you're still stuck in that survival mode, and it's costing you yourself. Dr. Nicole LePera, the holistic psychologist, calls this functional freeze. It's when your body is still, your face is composed, your calendar is full, but inside, you're numb. You don't need to try harder. You need to feel safe enough to come home. Endless input, no integration podcasts, videos, self-help, news, opinions, more. We consume so much we forget to digest. You're not lacking wisdom. You're overloaded with noise. You've read the books. You've watched the clips. You've even highlighted your favorite quotes. But your body hasn't caught up. Your nervous system is still fried. Your breath is still shallow. Your attention still scattered. Because knowing isn't healing. Remembering is. And remembering takes time, stillness, space. But modern life leaves no room for integration. Only input. And we wonder why we can't feel peace when peace requires silence. So no, you're not broken. You're reacting exactly how a human should when trapped in a system that asks you to ignore your humanity. The disconnection you feel isn't proof of failure. It's a signal, a message. You weren't designed to run like this. You were made to feel, to breathe, to stop. But maybe you forgot. Because the world kept moving, and you didn't want to fall behind. But now that you've stopped, even for a moment, you're remembering. Let's zoom out. Because this isn't just about you. It never was. It's about the world we were born into, and the unspoken rules we absorbed without question. We live in a culture that celebrates disconnection. Not openly, not directly, but constantly. It tells you, don't rest, compete. Don't reflect, produce, don't feel, keep moving. And most people don't even question it, because it's all dressed up in nice words: success, grind, ambition, growth. But what if you're growing away from yourself? Let's start with hustle culture. You are not your output. Somewhere along the line, we stopped asking, who are you? And started asking, what do you do? As if your existence needed justification. We've turned identity into a resume, turned self-worth into metrics, turned creativity into content. If you're not producing, posting, improving, then you must be wasting time, right? But time spent with yourself isn't a waste. It's the foundation of every real thing. Here's the thing. The system doesn't want you to slow down, because a calm, connected human is hard to sell to, hard to manipulate, hard to exhaust. But a disconnected one? Always looking for the next fix, always looking to feel enough. Capitalism doesn't thrive on self-acceptance. It thrives on self-doubt. That's why there's always a new product, a new upgrade, a new 3-step plan to finally fix you. But what if you're not broken? What if the world just benefits more from you believing you are? Performance over presence. In this culture, perception is reality. People aren't just living anymore. They're managing their image, carefully, constantly, like a job they never applied for. And slowly, you stop asking how you feel and start asking how you look to others. But here's the quiet danger. You can become liked by the world and still be completely unknown to yourself. You become a brand, a performance, a role, always smiling, always rising, always okay, even when you're not, because you've been taught, if they see the real me, they'll leave. If I slow down, I'll disappear. But here's the twist. You already feel invisible, not to the world, but to yourself. And maybe that's the loneliness no one talks about. Constant connectivity. We've never been more connected and never felt more alone. Thousands of followers. No one to call when it's 2 a.m. and you can't stop crying. Modern life gives you the illusion of community, but not the experience of it. It's likes instead of love, messages instead of meaning, notifications instead of touch. We respond faster, but connect less deeply, because real connection takes time, presence, softness, things this world doesn't reward. Think about it. When was the last time you sat with someone? No agenda, no distractions, just to exist together. Not to exchange value, not to network, just to be. That used to be normal. Now it feels like a luxury. Self-help as a new industry of control. Even the world of healing isn't safe. Even the path back to self has been turned into content, aesthetics, numbers, status. You meditate to track progress. You journal for a morning routine post. You rest so you can be productive again. Healing became another form of pressure, another identity to perform. You chase peace the same way you chased success, fast, loud, performative. But true healing is slow, boring, private. Sometimes it looks like crying in the shower. Sometimes it looks like doing nothing at all. And that's okay. Healing isn't a product. It's a quiet return. Not to your highest self, just to your realest one. Time is owned, not lived. In this culture, time isn't sacred. It's a commodity. You trade it for income, for approval, for status. But what if your time doesn't need to be optimized? What if your life isn't a calendar? Rest doesn't need to be earned. Joy doesn't need a reason. Stillness isn't a waste. But the world won't tell you that, because there's no profit in your peace. So you have to tell yourself. You have to remember, you are not a task. You are not a project. You are not here to win the game. You are here to feel, to breathe, to live. So, if you feel disconnected, maybe it's not you. Maybe it's the system around you that benefits from your silence. Maybe healing isn't about doing more. Maybe it's about doing less, with more honesty. You don't have to quit life. You just have to quit leaving yourself out of it. Let's be honest about something. Up until now, we've talked about disconnection like it's the enemy, the villain, the thing that stole you from yourself. But what if it wasn't? What if disconnection was your protector? Let that land. You didn't disconnect because you were weak. You disconnected because it was safer. Because feeling everything was too much. Because being fully present meant facing pain that you weren't ready to carry. So you shut the door. You turned down the volume. You built a little distance between yourself and your own life. Not out of failure, out of instinct. That instinct, it kept you going, it let you function. It helped you survive things that no one else may ever see. And in that way, your numbness, your detachment, your performance, they weren't mistakes. They were forms of intelligence, the safety of numbness. Think about it. Feeling can be dangerous when no one ever taught you what to do with those feelings. So you learn to go quiet, to flatten yourself, to become okay. You tell people you're fine, even when you're dying inside, not because you want to lie, but because you've been taught that truth is inconvenient. And when your pain was too invisible, or too loud, or too raw, you did what any smart human would do. You stopped feeling it. You buried it deep, under work, under roles, under smiles. Because at some point, it became safer to feel nothing than to risk feeling too much. The armor. We mistake for strength. Some of us have never felt safe being soft. We learned early that vulnerability wasn't safe. It was a liability. So we built armor, toughness, sarcasm, ambition, hyper-independence. We became the fixer, the achiever, the one who doesn't ask for help. But that strength, it came with a cost. You became unbreakable, but also unreachable. And when love came knocking, you didn't know how to open the door. Because you'd spent so long building walls, you forgot what it meant to be seen without them. The body learns to disconnect. This isn't just emotional. Your nervous system learns the rhythm of survival. Dr. Peter Levine, the trauma expert, explains this beautifully. He says that the body remembers what the mind forgets. That means, even if you don't remember the hurt, your body does. That tightness in your chest, that clench in your jaw, that impulse to check out during conversations. It's not random. It's your body trying to protect you from chaos, from disappointment, from the risk of being real in a world that didn't always welcome that. So maybe you didn't choose to disconnect. Maybe your body chose for you, because in that moment, it was the only safe option. Disconnection is control. There's another reason we disconnect, one that's harder to admit. We don't just want safety, we want control. Because when life feels unpredictable, we shut off emotion to avoid surprise. If we don't get too excited, we won't feel let down. If we don't get too close, they can't hurt us. If we don't hope too loudly, we won't hear the crash when it doesn't work out. That's the unspoken logic. So we live muted. We lower the volume on joy so pain doesn't get the mic either. But in doing that, we end up missing the full spectrum of life. Joy, grief, love, loss, connection, disconnection. They're all part of being human. You can't selectively numb. Maybe you're ready now. Here's the twist that matters most. Disconnection kept you safe, but maybe you're not in danger anymore. Maybe the threats are gone, but your body doesn't know that yet. Maybe the self you built to survive has done their job, and it's time to let them rest. You don't have to fix your disconnection. You just have to understand it, to see it clearly, to meet it with kindness. Because beneath the numbness is a version of you that's been waiting, patiently, silently, not for perfection, just for permission to feel again, to return. So, what would happen if you stopped apologizing for being sensitive, for needing space, for wanting to cry without explaining it? What if softness wasn't a weakness, but the bravest thing you could become? And what if you don't need to break through your disconnection, but slowly walk back through it with grace? Not to become your highest self, but to meet your trust one. Let's slow down, not just in pace, but in presence. You've made it this far, through the noise, through the layers, through the armor. So maybe now, we don't need more words. Maybe we need less. Let's sit here together, quietly. No pressure to be insightful, no demand to change, just notice. Where are your shoulders right now? Are they clenched, lifted, heavy? Can you soften them? Not fix, just soften. Where's your breath? Is it in your chest? Your throat? Did you forget to breathe again? What would it feel like to take one slow breath just for you? Now, think back to a moment when you felt like yourself. Not perfect, not successful, just you. Maybe it was walking home in the dark with music in your ears. Maybe it was lying on the floor, laughing at something that made no sense. Maybe it was making tea while the world outside was falling apart, and you didn't care for once. Hold that memory. Let it breathe. Let it remind you, you're not lost. Just a little out of rhythm. And rhythm can return. There is no rush. There never was. You don't need to find yourself today. You don't need a journal or a morning routine or a revelation. You just need a moment, right now, to be with yourself, fully, gently, without needing to improve. Let's try something. Not a technique, just a remembering. Put one hand on your chest, right there. Feel that? That's not a metaphor. That's your life, beating, even when you forgot it was there, even when you were too busy to notice, even when you didn't think you deserved to feel alive. It never stopped. Not once. Let's ask a few questions. Not for answers, just for opening. Who are you when no one is watching? What parts of you feel the most forgotten? What does your body miss that your brain won't admit? What would happen if you were honest with yourself? Not on paper, not on camera, just here, in the quiet. You don't have to answer. Just notice what stirs. Maybe your real self isn't a version you have to build. Maybe it's the one you buried under noise, and it's still whispering, saying, "You haven't lost me, you just stopped listening." So listen, not for noise, but for yourself. The laugh that hasn't been used in a while, the gentleness that feels too tender for this world, the dreams you stopped naming out loud because they felt too small, too soft, too strange. They're still here. They never left. You just got busy. And that's okay. What would it mean to come home, to your own inner world? Not to renovate it, not to redecorate, just to sit in it, as it is, with its mess, its dust, its light coming in through half-closed blinds. That's your real self. Not polished, not curated, just present. You don't need to announce your return. No one needs to know. You don't need to post about it. This moment is yours, and yours alone. And if you feel a lump in your throat right now, or the sting of quiet tears behind your eyes, let them come. That's not weakness. That's what it feels like when truth knocks gently and you finally let it in. You've been here for a while now, listening, maybe feeling more than you expected to, maybe remembering things you forgot you missed. There's no neat bow to tie all this with, no top 3 lessons, no next step, because the point was never to give you answers. It was to give you space. And maybe in that space you touched something that felt true. You don't have to transform today. You don't have to become anything. What if you're already enough? Even in your confusion, even in your tiredness, even in your silence. Maybe now is your time to be strong in a new way. Not louder, not sharper, but slower, softer, more awake. You don't need to fight to come back to yourself. You just need to listen. Because the truth isn't hiding. It's waiting. Right here, underneath the noise, underneath the speed, underneath the person you had to become to keep up. It's still you, still breathing, still worthy. So, wherever you go after this, take your time. You don't need to rush back into the noise. Let the silence linger. Let it follow you like a gentle companion. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not broken. You're just remembering. And that's more than enough. This was Echo, the voice behind NTDN. Thanks for sitting with me, quietly, honestly. I'll be here when you need to return.